Hi everyone, Paul here from familywheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And I can't quite believe I'm saying this here this week, but I'm really excited to be behind the wheel of a minivan with you. I, like millions of other North Americans, particularly families, have kind of shied away from the minivan over the last couple of decades. We've opted for a station wagon. So many families are opting for SUVs because they need the extra space, but they just can't quite get over the style, the stigma, the image of having a minivan in their life. So Chrysler's anecdote to that is the 2017 Pacifica. Redesigned, completely reimagined. In fact, it's nothing like the 7-passenger SUV that shared the same Pacifica name in the Chrysler line earlier in the 2000s. This is a minivan that looks pretty darn good from the outside. The interior is meant to be a lot more car-like. There's some really nice appointments in here and some very clever little Easter eggs as well for families. There has been a lot of hype about this minivan. Minivan hype, I didn't know that was a thing, but here we have it. This week we're going to put all of our standardized tests through this thing. We're going to hop in as a family who generally have been kind of opposed to these things in the past and see if we can swallow the pill of, in fact, getting behind a minivan and enjoying it. That's this week here on Family Wheels. So the Pacifica picks up where the Town & Country left off. The Town & Country is done now in the Chrysler line, and I asked the company why they didn't just stick with the Town & Country name in this vehicle, instead picking up the Pacifica badge. Their answer to that was that the Pacifica 7-passenger SUV was really groundbreaking, in many ways before its time. And since this Pacifica really does break some new ground on the minivan front as well, with a whole new from the ground up design, that they wanted the name to reflect that. Now, when you hop on board this vehicle, right away you're going to notice that it is a very well appointed interior, and it does not feel like a minivan from the front seats forward. I feel like I'm in more of a high-end sedan. The seats are super firm and comfortable. The layout of the dash is excellent. The instrument cluster in front of the driver here is very modern. It doesn't feel like I'm carting around kids to a hockey game. Something else that's going to surprise you about the Pacifica is just how much power it's got. A surprising amount of juice for a minivan. And in fact, this 3.6 liter V6 engine checks off some pretty important specifications and best-in-class features in the minivan segment. First up, best-in-class power. So yes, whenever you're passing somebody on the highway, if you've got a big steep incline that you're dealing with, you're not going to feel like you're just lumbering along in a great big cube-like van. Next up, and this doesn't always go hand in hand, is best-in-class fuel efficiency. This week we've averaged about 10.9 liters per 100 kilometers in our week of driving, and that's been mainly city driving as well, which is pretty respectable for a car of this size with a larger V6 engine that's pretty capable on board as well. But if those numbers still don't impress you, maybe wait off a little bit, because there's a hybrid version of this vehicle coming out. In fact, it will be the first ever hybrid minivan available in North America, and Chrysler says it's going to be a plug-in hybrid, by the way, so you can run exclusively off of electric power with some pretty decent range. Chrysler says that you should be able to get up to 2.9 liters per 100 kilometers in the city with that hybrid minivan when it comes out, which is absolutely amazing for a car of this size. And then finally, in that factor of best-in-class features, is best-in-class towing capacity. And it's still not great in the Pacifica, if I'm honest, at 3,600 pounds, but it certainly is going to give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of the size of a boat that you could pull, or even a small travel trailer. Now here's another number that stuck out for me, although not exactly in a good way for the Pacifica. That's its starting price at just shy of $44,000. That's a lot of coin for a domestic minivan, but Chrysler says what they're trying to do here is corner a slightly higher end buyer, and that's why the Dodge Grand Caravan is still going to be available, and still going to be available at a much cheaper starting price. The standard kit that you get on the Pacifica is pretty darn good, at that base price. Leather seating surfaces, a touchscreen infotainment system, a rear backup camera, push button start, all that kind of stuff. Also, second and third row stow and go seating comes standard as well. We're going to get to that in a bit because that system is absolutely golden. It's a real fantastic system, not new for 2017, but really does make it stand out compared to the competition. Once you get into the higher level trims of the Pacifica, like this limited trim that I'm in here right now, the price gets even plumper on you. This is a $53,000 car. Sure, we're getting things like a tri-pane panorama sunroof. It's absolutely huge. We're getting Napa leather seats. Super comfortable seats in this vehicle, by the way. They're not so soft as you find in a lot of minivans. They're firm and supportive. You could drive in these all day long. You're getting heated and ventilated front seats. You're getting heated second row seats. You're getting a lot of stuff, but still $53,000. And then on top of that, this fully loaded tester that we've got here this week also has the entertainment system package, which gives you twin screens in front of the second row passengers. They're touch screens, they're really great, but that's a $3,500 package. And then the safety system package as well is a $2,000 option. Gives you adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist technology, automatic forward braking if you're not reacting quickly enough, an excellent 360-degree surround camera. Although to me, these systems in a $52,000 minivan kind of maybe should come standard. That said, this tester, with all of those options that have been thrown on, comes in at just over $60,000. That's Volvo XC90 territory. That's a lot of dough to spend on a minivan. There are a few other beefs that I have with the Pacifica as well. First up is this great big honking pillar just behind the second row seats that really blocks my view out of the right-hand side of the vehicle here. Now, this limited trim that I've got here this week comes with blind spot monitoring, but not all trims of the Pacifica have that, and that's something to keep in mind. Another thing that I'm noticing in this vehicle is that while it corners beautifully and has really nicely tuned suspension for a minivan, I've been taking some corners in this at speeds that I never thought I would take in a minivan. It's really smooth and crisp in that regard, but the steering feel is very light. Sometimes I feel rather disconnected to the road as a result. Now, speaking of handling and steering feel, one thing that I was disappointed not to see as an option here in the Pacifica is all-wheel drive. The only minivan in Canada that you can get with all-wheel drive is the Toyota Sienna, and to me, that's a real lost opportunity from Chrysler. You can't get the Honda Odyssey, you can't get the Kia Sedona, and you can't get the Chrysler Pacifica with all-wheel drive on board. Now, I asked Chrysler about that, and they said that they've made this vehicle all-wheel drive ready. So if down the road the market demands it, and people are really saying, hey, throw some all-wheel drive in there for us, it's able and ready to do that. Now let's move on to the infotainment system, because there's some really excellent kit on board here and a couple of things that are bothering me as well. First up, we've got this very, very clear 8.4-inch touchscreen available on the higher trims of this vehicle. The lowest level of the Pacifica comes with a 5-inch touchscreen. It's really a nice, clear display. However, most of the time this week, I've been finding that I've actually used the voice recognition software because it's so good. It's some of the best that I've come across. Whether I'm plugging in an address, asking for a contact, putting in a phone number, changing the radio station, it hasn't skipped a beat on me once this week, and that's saying a lot compared to a lot of the other systems that are out there. That said, if I do want to go through this system to, say, turn on my heated seats, use the surround camera when I'm parking into a tight parking stall, that sort of thing, they're buried in here, and I have to go through menus on the touchscreen to find those options. I'm just not comfortable with wading through menus like that to do something as simple as turning on a heated seat when I want it on. Now, speaking of kids in the back seat, the Pacifica does have a really excellent safety record. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, in fact, just gave it a top Safety Pick Plus rating, and that's the very best that you can get. So that's great news for the Pacifica. I just wish that some of these regularly used features that I'd like to have available to me all the time weren't buried in menus, because I don't think that's a very safe thing. And while we're on the topic of the infotainment system, I want to cover one other very cool feature, which is kind of tied to it as well, and that's a special noise cancellation system. So there are 6 microphones in the Pacifica that are constantly monitoring the cabin noise on this vehicle. And as the vehicle is driving along the highway, for example, we get a lot of that road noise through the car and through the tires in the cabin. It's picking up those noises and then putting out the opposite sound wave through the vehicle's sound system, through its speakers. And it means, much like those fancy headphones that you use when you're on a plane ride, that you're not going to get a lot of that din, a lot of that road noise that you would otherwise hear. The result is, for a large minivan like this, a very quiet ride. I've broken my decibel reader here this week. It's on the fritz, but so I can't give you a specific number, but I will tell you just anecdotally here, driving along the highway at 100 kilometers an hour, it is a very quiet ride. Well, welcome to the passenger area of the Pacifica, where I am super impressed by just how roomy it is back here. In fact, I'm in the 3rd row right now, and this is very possibly the most comfortable 3rd row that I've ever sat in. I'm 6'2", and I've got headroom to spare. In fact, I've even got legroom to spare, which really is quite a surprise to me. Most of the time, it's kind of a little bit of a, last-ditch effort. Okay, fine, throw those kids into the 3rd row, but not for long because it's tight. But I could be back here all day long quite comfortably. Standard on all trims of this vehicle now are sunshades, not just in the 2nd row, but also in the 3rd row. So if you've got young kids back here trying to catch some shut-eye on a long road trip, they're going to be able to do it. Something else which is nice about all minivans, with captain style seating in the 2nd row anyway, is that unlike SUVs where you have to slide that 2nd row forward and kind of cram yourself in, there's a pass through here. So I can really easily walk through to the 2nd row, and here I am sitting now in the 2nd row. Headroom's a bit more squeezed up here. I've got about an inch of extra headroom here, so anyone taller than me might find it a bit of a pinch, but my legroom is really excellent too. You might notice that my knees are kind of a little bit of a above 90-degree awkward angle, and that's because Chrysler, of course, has its stow and go system, which means that it's really easy to hide these 2nd row seats away into the floor. It gives you a huge cargo capacity in this vehicle when both the 2nd and 3rd row seats are down. But the downside to that, of course, is that you have a slightly higher floor here as a result. Now, speaking of this stow and go system, if it's important to you, having these different configurations, Chrysler, by the way, says there are about 243 passenger and cargo configurations that you can wade through with this vehicle. But if you do decide to go for the hybrid option in this car, which is coming out later on this year, then you forego the stow and go system here in the 2nd row, because that's where the batteries are stored for the hybrid system in the hybrid Pacifica. Now, I was talking about family-friendly features in this vehicle. Tons of them here. 7, to my count, USB ports in this vehicle. Means that every passenger sitting in every seat could be charging a device as they drive along. Other features to look for in the higher level trim of the Pacifica here in the 2nd row include heated 2nd row seats, as well as a built-in optional vacuum cleaner. I love this idea. If you've got kids who are still grinding Cheerios into the carpet, making a mess back here, slinging food around, you don't have to run to the garage every time to get the vacuum cleaner. It's built right in. Now, speaking of keeping this car clean, I was disappointed to see that here on this limited trim, Chrysler has opted to put these perforated seats in the 2nd and 3rd row of this car. If I had smooth leather, I could just wipe it right down, but these perforations are going to soak up all those messes and make it really challenging to keep this car clean. But it's here at the trunk of the Pacifica that the cargo capacity really starts to shine on this car. I mean, check it out. We've got our standard amount of gear behind the 3rd row right now, and it barely makes a dent. A diaper bag, a backpack, a stroller, a couple of bags of groceries, and a soccer ball. Now, it's sitting rather low right now in the trunk, and that's because there's kind of this deep trench back here that the 3rd row seating folds down and into to give you a flat load floor. The downside to that is that say you've got a family dog that you want to sit back here as you're driving around with a bunch of passengers. Well, it's a very deep bay that they'll be sitting in, which means that they won't be able to rest their head up on the seat up here, and you won't be able to keep an eye on them as you would be able to with, say, a conventional SUV or wagon. wagon. The plus side is that when this bay gets filled up by that third row, you have so much room back here. And it's done automatically on the higher level trim by pushing one of these buttons to fold it down into the floor. My beef with that is that it's a very slow system. It takes its time for that third row to disappear, but once it's down, you've got almost 2,500 liters of cargo capacity. When the second and third rows are down, you can fit entire sheets of plywood in this vehicle. That means that it could be used not just for families, but as a work vehicle as well. But let's be honest, you're far more likely to be using the Pacifica as a family hauler than you are as a work vehicle. So let's see what a rear-facing car seat is going to do to front passenger comfort. I've put that in place, and we still have over a foot of front passenger legroom, and that puts it right up at the top of any vehicle that we've ever tested. Lots of headroom, lots and lots of legroom here as well. The downside to that is that the glove box is rather small, but you do have all kinds of other storage nooks here to play with. Really, all in all, the Pacifica, no matter what row you're sitting in, has exceptional comfort, and also the latching system for putting in the car seats really straightforward to use. When you compare that to the Toyota Sienna that we were in a few months ago, that car wasn't nearly as good with its latching system. You had to kind of search for them. So if you're taking a car seat in and out of this vehicle all the time, you're going to be really pleased with the Pacifica on that front as well. Well, I really have tried to put the Pacifica through all kinds of tests this week. We've put our family in this vehicle. I've tried the second and third row. I've played around with the stow and go seating. I've put my dog in the back, thrown skis into this thing. I even did a trip out to IKEA to pick up some bathroom renovation supplies. And great big long boxes could get bombed right down this vehicle without issue at all once those seats were down. But one thing I did notice is that when you've got big items like that, the load floor isn't completely flat. But all in all, man, I am so impressed with this car. I am not a minivan guy. My family, we're not minivan people, but it has totally won us over. The one thing that I was disappointed to see was the price point on this vehicle. At over $60,000, this tester that we have here this week does just feel a little bit too steep for a Chrysler minivan, but the appointments are here and it does feel very high end. If it were me, the standard $43,000 price tag on the base trim of the Pacifica is still very nicely equipped. Personally, I think that's what I would go for. I'd look at that lowest level trim and forgo things like this huge sunroof and the entertainment systems and all the rest, because it's still a nicely appointed car. Now, what I'm really interested in, though, is that hybrid model, because if it can truly achieve those numbers of 2.9 liters per 100 kilometers in the city in a 7-passenger family hauler, that will be a real game changer. Next week on the program, I'm into the Lexus NX 200T, the smallest in the SUV line for Lexus. It's a beautiful little whip of a car from the outside, but let's see how that one stacks up for family living as well. You can check that out in about 7 days. Until then, I'd love to see your thoughts on the Pacifica. You can leave a comment below. You can also check out familywheels.ca for all of our pros and cons in bullet form of the Pacifica, so make sure to check that out as well. See you in 7 days in that Lexus, and have a great week.